There's a sequence, there's a code, there's a combination. And when you get the right combination, it unlocks everything for us. What's happening?
What's up?
Man, just getting it dialed in. I know we were chatting endurance before we hit live. Let's just go live. We're live.
Yeah.
So we've kind of on this endurance kick. I know you had kind of kicked things off in training as well. We were geared up to do Puerto Rico half Ironman earlier this year, wasn't it?
Yes. Was it March or April?
Yeah. And they still had all of the restrictions, and they were saying that you couldn't race unless you vaccinated and all that stuff. And I was like, man, I ain't messing with that. And I think you kind of felt the same way. So
yeah, for sure. It was like I wasn't going to get vaccinated. Like, no way. Wasn't happening.
Yeah, to go race to Puerto Rico. I'm not going to get vaccinated to race to Puerto Rico.
Looking at that whole thing, like putting that thing like that, what that would take for that to be successful in the beginning before ever committing to it is like, for me, a big part of it was having my family there. And then just hearing about like you needed vaccination status in restaurants and stuff. I even thought about, I wanted to do it so bad. I even thought about just getting, I knew people that I could get a vaccination card from.
Yeah.
But then it was like, man, like at the end, it was like, I think I could have done that and gotten away with it, but I just didn't want to support something that was really what it came down to. I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to get vaccinated. I wasn't going to have my family, and I didn't want to support something that was supporting that would look like I was falling in line with all that stuff. That's just me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's like pulled plug.
Yeah. And I think that it's that remembering why you're doing it in the first place. And, for you, it was, a couple things. And I know one of the things I want to dive into, with you, later in this conversation, yet, it's about having the family there, being able to overall experience it. And it really is that meaningful, that powerful, coming up and being able to see, family and loved ones along the way. I mean, it's just that extra shot of adrenaline, and, to be able to have that is really, really powerful. I've done some endurance races where nobody's been there, and it doesn't have the same meaning. It doesn't have the same feeling. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's different for sure. So yeah, we were chatting about race coming up this weekend and just kind of laying everything out. And I think even on the original journey of getting clear, but then deconstructing it and really coming up with a great plan to be able to execute and breaking it down in, little micro chunks is so key. And that's not only talking on the endurance side, but even talking in business and life in general, is deconstructing and breaking it down to get those micro wins.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You'll just checking before, like, kind of middle of that conversation about your race this weekend, and you hit the live button. So, yeah, it's curious, like kind of what you said in the beginning here, though. Do you have like, what do you have for support in that race you have coming up this weekend?
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's all self-supported. The only thing that the race is providing is ice and water stations throughout the way. They've got, I think, three of those, but they won't let you race unless you have a crew. And you've done, you guys did earlier this year, you did a relay for the Keys 100.
Yep.
So, working in a crew. I mean, you guys were relaying, but you essentially were your own crew. So if you weren't running, you guys were crewing and supporting everybody else. And, I've got two on the support side of things. I got Jay Cool, man in the wheel, and then Josh Garrett gonna roll and run and support. And yeah, it's gonna be an adventure. Really looking forward to that test. And it gets to a certain point. Yeah, I mean, there's the physical element to it, but it is definitely mental more than anything.
Yeah, well, I'm sure. So do your runner, is that like a pacer? How does that work?
Yeah. So when they crew on the side of things, a little different on the relay because you guys were there to support each other. But when you look at it from this regard, they won't let you. Obviously, they won't let you do this without having a crew. Obviously, it's going to be hotter than hell. So ice and water mandatory. And you got to be self-supported, which means you got to provide all of your nutrition. You got to provide everything. They don't provide anything, but they do have stops along the way, like three stops for ice and water. And then they give you locations for like, there's a Love's here, there's another store here. So, it's really kind of, mapping it out and having those micro races amongst the big race. That's what's, when you break it down that way. And so as I was telling you, we're going to run 10 mile races and all I'm focused on is 1 mile at a time. So I've got 10 miles to get to the first race done. Reassess, check. Then we're going to do it again. We're going to go 10 more miles. So I got 10 miles to worry about. Then boom. Then we're going to reassess and recheck and then keep going,
How many others do you have to go through before you're delirious and just don't know which 10 miles you're in?
Hopefully not. Hopefully I can get way down the path. I've been 80. So I know what it feels like and what it takes to get to 80, and 80 was on trail. And so there's all pavement. This is all pavement. So, I mean, we're in Flatlands, Kansas, and it's going to be hot as hell. And so it's going to be interesting, but it's all, this comes back to really kind of that straight line life, right? The straight line theory, getting from point A to point B. And so you look at, and we talked about this in the coaching, we talk about in the coaching certification side of things, right? Hey, it's all about knowing where you're at and getting to point B. You've got that known destination. And so when you deconstruct that back, that A to B has a bunch of A to B's in between. So for us, this is just a small piece of a bigger picture. And yet you have this piece and then you have a bunch of A to B's. So we're running 10 A to B's. And then within the 10, we're running 10 A to B's to get to the 1. And it's just really 100 A to B's on this entire journey. And I promise you, every A to B is different. And you know this. I mean, shit, you did Keys 100. So, things can be feeling well, you're feeling on top of the world. And then literally 5 minutes later, you're like, your world's upside down. I mean, that shit happens that fast. And especially in endurance and heat and distance, it doesn't take much to get things out of whack. So when you can really break it down into the micros and like, hey, I'm only concerned about the next 15 minutes or the next 17 minutes or whatever targeted pace for that A to B. And I think that serves us well in everything that we do, right? So you look at like this year and you look at the whole year from A to B, and then you look at this quarter from A to B, you look at this month from A to B, you look at this week from A to B, you look at this day from A to B. And what are you doing to win A to B today? And if you just stack those wins along the way, it allows us, to build that momentum. It's kind of that exercise we did at KT. How do we build that momentum and keep going?
Yeah.
What was a takeaway for you? What was like a lessons learned kind of going through that endurance journey? I mean, obviously you were training for Puerto Rico,
right?
And then just kind of being able to transition. I mean, you live in Florida, so you understand the heat and the humidity. But like, what were some of the lessons and takeaways when you did Keys? I
mean, well, shoot, there was a bunch. I live in Southwest Florida, which is only 90 miles from Key West. But a straight line. So I'm not that far north, but Florida's got so many different. Florida could be like 3 or 4 different states with the different climate zones.
Exactly.
But leading up to it, I knew it was going to be hot, and so I knew it was going to be a relay. So like the couple weeks leading up to it, I would do like 3 2-milers a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the middle of the day, 1 in the afternoon. Then I was doing like 3 3-milers. I got up to where I was doing like 4 4-milers. Because looking at that, looked at the map ahead of time and knew that like the longest section was the 7 Mile Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I also knew there were some really fast guys in our group, and I was not going to be doing that. But then, so I knew that like most of them were going to be between like 2 and 3 miles. So I just was like, all right, we'll go to that 4 mile mark. And like the week leading up to it, I was just pretty much doing everything in the heat of the day. I would do like a 4 miler. I would take like an hour or 2 hour break, and then I would go do another one. And it was hard. And I was like, all right, I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
But then down there, man, it was just different. It was like you like the first leg I did, I was like, we had 6 guys in the rotation. 5 or 6 guys. Shoot, no, I can't remember, but we all did about 6 legs. I think I did about 16 or 17 miles somewhere in there. But like even the first one, I was like, man, this is hot. And it's just like then it's like, I also saw mentally for me, it was like some of the guys in our group were super fast. I'm not super fast.
I'm a turtle. I know.
When I'm doing my training, it's like I try and average like 9.5 minutes a mile. But I can do 10 miles that way. On a shorter distance, I can go faster, but then I'm seeing some of these guys, maybe it was in my head too, like seeing some of these guys that were cranking out like 7 milers, but even the guy that was cranking out 7 milers, he did the 7 mile bridge. And then he was averaging like, watching him come down that bridge, it's like, it looked like he was dying. And his pace ended up being like a 10-minute mile. It's like, whoa, man, this can take like the best of us and hurt us.
Yeah.
And so then my section after that one was on Big Pine Key. And it's like, I remember driving, I've been down to the Keys more times than I can count. And I remember driving this section of the Keys, and it's the worst one. And I didn't realize that's when I was running. But it's like there's these high fences, and there's these key deer, which are like, they're basically like dog size, but they're down there and they're super protected. So they have these high chain link fences along this route because that's where the key deer live. And I'm like, oh man, and that was my longest one. I think that was like 4 miles. And it was like 2 p.m. It was torturously hot. There's no breeze. There's no view because it's in mangroves. It smells like ass. Like it was low tide. It was like, that was
terrible.
Oh yeah. It's like, all right, I'm going to walk this one, I'm going to walk part of it. And then I'd get running again. I remember this girl passed me. I'm like, whatever. And then this next girl passed me, and I was like, did you just offer to give me a piggyback ride? She goes, I was like, I must be hearing or seeing things.
You're already seeing things.
Thinking things. I was like, well, at least I could keep my sense of humor. But I got to the end of that one, and I was like, I was hurting. And most of my legs ended up being in the second half. I think I only did like 6 miles in the first 50, and then the rest of it was in the end. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to keep going. Like, I took a nap in the back of the van. I was just eating peanut butter and bread and, water and electrolytes and just pounding that. But it's like, the cool thing about the relay was like, there would be another 5 guys. And it's like, all right, that guy, I watched that guy come off the 7 Mile Bridge. He's a gazelle, and he looked like he was dead. And he got up and he went again. So I can go again.
Yeah.
And you just realize like how far you can push yourself.
Yeah.
And then like the last one, I think there was 2 guys after me to finish it. So like we did pretty good. We started at around 6:30 in the morning, and we got into Key West about an hour after sunset. Yeah. So it's like my last leg was going over this bridge at sunset. I'm like, all right, well, that was payment for the suffering back there. And it's like, my time was better and everything, but just, and then watching guys too, just come out of the gate fast. There was a lot that I learned from my own activity in it. And there was a lot I learned just from watching other guys. And it's like, I would say the Ironman training, because I was ready to go to Puerto Rico, but it didn't happen. So, but all that training, it taught me the discipline of just trusting the game plan and knowing my pace, because it's easy to go just start out of the gate hot and burn yourself up. But I was like, I knew my pace, and some of the guys pretty much held a good pace through the day, but some guys kind of got burnt out. And it's like, I just held my pace, and that pace I was able to maintain strong through my last leg. So that was a big part of it. Just trust, man. If anything, like trusting your game plan. There you go. There was even guys, and so that race you can do a 100-mile relay, you can do a 50-mile relay, so you start halfway up, or you can do the 100-mile solo or 50-mile solo, and you can tell the people that were doing which one based on how their bib number was laid out. And I think the guys that were like guys and girls that were doing the 100-mile solo, they were starting a couple hours ahead of us in the morning, so I want to say somewhere around mile 70-ish, somewhere in there, we came up on our first person that was like, I think it was on my leg. I passed this guy and I was coming up on him. I'm like, man, that guy looks like he's hurting. And I saw his bib number and I got next to him. I was like, are you doing this solo? He was there. I was like, holy cow. But that was kind of cool to watch and see how that works too. Cause that's something I could definitely see doing down the road. But like their support, they had, you know, a van, they had, I think it was after mile 50, they could have a pacer. Like they would have somebody that came up to them and like at the checkpoints, and they had they would have like a basket with a handle, and it was like their beverages, there were like their nutrition and all that stuff. And then they would just walk with them until they got what they needed. And then they'd break off in the van and meet them at the next spot.
Yep.
But some of these people, man, whew, like, I think the guy that won it on the solo was somewhere around 21 hours. I was like,
ridiculous, man.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, I know one of the guys in our group came, we had like a text accountability group leading up to it. And then a few days after, like some guys were from Texas, and one of the guys in Texas messaged and said he looked on the website, and it was like they said it was the lowest percentage ever that's completed the solo. I think it was like around 51%. I don't know what the next highest was, but it was like, for them, it was like super low. And they said they accounted that to the heat. So
yeah, heat's no joke, man, especially down there. It's a little bit different. And, you know, it's, you said something in there that's super important, and it applies to, I think it applies to any of, you know, the happiness triad, right? In our health, wealth, and our relationships, is that, you know, you get clear and you run your race. The worst thing that you can do in an endurance event is get on somebody else's race.
Yeah.
And, you know, you got, you know, sometimes, and I remember early on, you know, it's kind of an ego thing, right? It's like, how in the hell is that person passing me? Right. And it's like, man, I know I'm in better shape than that person, but yet that person just like went by me like nothing. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And so it'll definitely play mind games with you. And so it's so important to, one, make sure you have a game plan, and two is that you stick to your game plan. If you try to abandon that, and, you know, I had a meeting with, so every once a week I have a content meeting with our content writer, and we kind of talk through articles, and we talk through, you know, things that we're working on, books and projects and things that we're working on. And, you know, she asked me, I forget, we were answering a question for something. And the only thing that came to my mind was, and you know, right when I lead up to these events, the one thing that always comes to my mind is that it's, you know, it's either Navy SEAL saying, it's definitely one of the military sayings, is that, you know, we don't rise to the occasion, we sink to the depth of our training. And
100%.
100%, man. And it's not like, yeah, I'm going to step up on game day. No, you ain't. No, you ain't. You're going to sink to the lowest depths of your training. And that to me, that's just a great reminder. And that's a great reminder of kind of where we feel, you know, this industry, you know, this season of the industry with the housing market and real estate agents in general, where we're moving. And it's not going to, it's, you know, just because you had a smile, a nice smile, a strong social media presence, and you can put a sign in the yard, that ain't going to cut it. Like right now, more than ever, you are not going to continue to rise to that occasion. You are going to sink to the depths of your training. And most agents are not trained. They are not skilled. Right. They don't know. They couldn't articulate their value proposition if they had a gun to their head.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, I think for people that know, I think it, you know, we've talked about this in recent weeks too. And you see that with agents right now, like especially ones that haven't been in it that long, like they're worried about what's going on and everything. And I really think it's going to be a great time to, you know, you actually have to know what you're doing. Like I would rather, you know, I know how to market a house on a listing. I would much rather have to show that to somebody and have that be the plan versus, oh yeah, it might take 30 days to sell your house instead of three hours. Like it's just, you have to have some training and know what you're doing though.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to weed out a lot of people.
100%. You know, I mean, I always kind of tell the story of where, my sister about killed me, and then my team about killed me because of my sister. And
I don't think I've heard that story.
And so, we're in a kind of a balanced market, and it's my sis, man. She's gonna she'll just whatever. But you gotta know my sister. She's she can be a bit of an ass, and so she go to list and sell their house, and just like, hey, trust me, big brother, I got this. And on me every day, on my team every day. And my team, I thought, was going to kill me first for having to deal with her. And, this comes back to extreme ownership, right? This comes back to the 100-0 principle. I did not walk her through or articulate the process. I did not show her the market. I did not clearly state what is going on. Mm-hmm. We got through the transaction. We ended up selling it. And, we didn't talk for months. We didn't talk for months. And then, obviously a couple years later, they go to sell. And of course, I would have killed her if she would have listed it with anybody else. And then she, so I sat down and I went through the whole process. I said, here is start to finish. This is what's going on. This is what's going on in the market. This is, average days on market is XYZ, especially in your area. We're in one of the higher desired areas. Like, we're going to market it. We're going to follow the process, understand everything to the T. And it played out, right? And we stayed in high touch communication. It was like, hey, we're not even halfway to the average days on market. We're going to create a little more demand. We're going to get some more traffic coming through. Just understand, let's just go to it. And it was almost to the day when we closed to the average days on market in her area that she was living. Got her, everything that she wanted. And it was great. It was an awesome transaction, and the whole process, the whole experience was exactly, but that was because you can't take that for granted. Even with friends and family members, especially those that you think you already have enough trust, you have to articulate your value. You have to articulate the process. You have to educate them. You have to let them know what's going on. Like, you can't shortcut. And we always say, skipping steps only presents the illusion of speed. And skipping steps with my sister the first go around, we about killed each other. And then, understanding that every step you skip is going to come back to get you at some point in the process. And I think that's just a tremendous reminder for where we're at and where we're going. But it's also the same principle, Dave. It's the same principle for life, right? Like, on those endurance runs, what you didn't focus on gets exposed. Yeah. And so you think you're skipping some steps in the process. You think you're skipping some steps in the training. It's going to get exposed at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. You can only hide that for short runs, for short races, so it's like the endurance, I can totally see. I mean, even the relay, I mean, I wasn't running 100 miles solo, but that was hard to do the legs. But if I hadn't have done the training I did, and I definitely could have done way better looking at it now, for a longer period of time leading up to it. But it's just like with anything else, man. It's not just racing. It's like you can hide stuff for a short period of time, but you're not going to do it in the long haul.
That's why, man, anything worth building, anything, I honestly believe. Now, are there the unicorns out there? Of course. But anything sustainable, anything great takes time. It does. You can look at Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hour rule. We talk about, making sure, great coaching can help collapse that time, yet it still takes time. And, Robert Greene says, the only thing that challenges the 10,000 hour rule is coaching. But something that might take you 10,000 hours, a coach can maybe collapse a couple thousand hours. So it's still got to do 7,000 to 8,000 hours to really master and build anything great worth building. So it's just an understanding that if you try to skip steps along the way, it's gonna catch you at some point, for sure. Definitely. All right, man, we got to talk about your shirt, because that's like one of my most favorite shirts that I've seen. And you come rolling into kitchen table with that on. And it's been kind of my adopted life mantra from my buddy Mike Tuttle. And I got to spend some time with him. He's one of my dearest friends on the planet, Blake Sloan. Him and Mike that's how I got introduced to Mike. And Mike has this life mantra of live the life you want. So design the life that you want to live.
Okay.
Do epic shit with epic people. So always doing epic things with epic people. Be kind, and don't apologize to anybody about it. And that's just been kind of my new adopted life mantra.
I love that.
I'll catch myself. Like we went up to the club this weekend, 4th of July celebration. I had, the kiddos. We get there a little bit later in the afternoon. There's been some people there, celebrating a little bit longer than we have in the pool. And, they're lobster red, right? So, they've been there for a minute, and they're doing some dancing that they would, otherwise they probably wouldn't be doing. And so, old me could get triggered. And I was just like, I kept coming back, just, bumping in, saying things, kind of around the kids and stuff. And I just like, just be kind. Just be kind.
Yeah, it goes a long way, though.
Yeah.
You've got to be, and it's gotten me through some weird situations for sure. But no, the shirt's actually it's from my church. I don't know if it was our pastor that came up with it, but like it's just something he says. I think it was, but something he says all the time. Like, dude, be kind. Like, there's no reason not to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it, and so, like he wears it at church frequently. And I was like, man, I've seen him wear it. I'm like, I got to get one of those. And so I found where they're selling there. So I grabbed one, but it's just, it resonated with me because it's something I've always tried to do anyways. There's just no reason not to be. I mean, it could be whether, no matter where you're at, being an ass isn't going to help you in any situation.
Never.
It could be at a restaurant, waitress is having or waiters having a hard time, and maybe the kitchen screwed some stuff up, and the person that delivers usually is the one that gets crapped on. Like, there's no reason to, like, just being kind, like in any situation, even with with something I try and teach my kids too. Like, they get frustrated with things or with each other, especially it's like they can still be nice to each other. With clients, gosh, I mean, I've been in some of the most, some great successful stuff and some of the most disappointing failures too. But it's like, there's still no reason not to treat people the way you'd want to be treated, man. It's, coming right from my church, it's really like living the way Jesus did, just being nice to people. And, there's just no reason not to be. And so that's what it's all about.
We talk about this too, and I always say it's layers deeper with somebody. And, Coach Matt, gave us that, whole smoke and fire. And a lot of the times we get caught up in the smoke, and instead of understanding that, we're getting choked out on the smoke instead of getting down to the fire and really what the real issue is. And so I think that also comes back to the emotional intelligence and understanding empathy at a high level. And when you're just trying to be kind, and you can see that, hey, there's if I'm getting triggered with the smoke instead of getting down to the fire and being empathetic to their situation. And most of the time, there's some fire, there's some things that they're dealing with. It's their insecurities. And so you can't allow that to transfer over to you. And so you can just be kind and understand that, hey, I'm sure you're dealing with some stuff like all of us are. And, if I can give you any advice, it would be just be kind. And the more kind that we can be to each other. But the other important thing too, Dave, with that, and Mike and I, when he kind of was laying his life mantra on me, and we got to talking about the be kind. And I said, but the most important person you got to be kind to is yourself first. And that's, because that goes back to that whole, kind of what we talk about with what Garrett talks about, the king eats first. And it's just because like you've got to make yourself the best version of yourself, because you have a responsibility for those that are looking to you for your guidance and your leadership. And you know this. I mean, I believe you can't coach and lead another human until you coach and lead yourself first. And that to me is what the King Eats First is about, is that you've got to make yourself strong, because you've got people that are looking to you for your guidance and your leadership. And, really, I mean, you think about it, if you've got kiddos, I mean, you're a leader to your kids, you're a leader to your family. And
you're leading them one way or the other.
100% you are, right?
Because they're copying what you do. That was really, I mean, having kids was my first real realization that's you're leading people. Which way do you want to lead them?
Yeah. Yeah. Coach Burt, I love how he tells that story, the parents showing up to bring their kids to him, when he was still coaching basketball. He's like, hey, we believe our daughter has so much potential. We would love for you to maximize that for us. And he would always ask the parent, are you maximizing your potential? Are you the role model that she needs in her life? And they'd be like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know this was a coaching session for us.
I think I remember him saying that at shareholders too. Totally makes sense, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we got the books all behind you, man. I love it. I got partial bookshelf, it's just, I got books all over. I got books all over the house. You just walk, oh, there's a book there.
Yeah. We got bookshelves out in our study where the kids have desks and stuff, and they're all over the place.
What are you reading right now? Or what have you read, this year that's had a tremendous impact on you?
I would say 2 books. The Gap and the Gain, which was, I've read that twice. First time I kind of cruised through it, and then I really like. It was after kitchen table first quarter. I came back, and I was even on the plane. I was like, I'm really going to read it, and like it took a couple weeks, and I really went through it, and I was like trying to implement some of that stuff, because there's so many lessons in there. Just about, I mean, not just to apply to your business, but just everything. There's things in there that have helped, in my relationship with my family. One of the things I haven't done it consistently yet, but it's definitely something that I'm working on is just writing down wins and losses. Like I've got a separate journal where I'm just doing that at night, like writing down 3 wins and then writing down 3 things that I'm going to win on the next day. And that's like really the last thing I'll do before I go to bed, and then put that away. And then, there was a lot of simple stuff, but then the book does a great job of explaining the psychology behind that and how your brain works. And it's already like, if you write that down, what I've done, over the years, I've done periods of time where I'm like, I write down gratitude lists, but like writing wins is bigger, because it's, in writing that win, you're getting the gratitude out of it. You're also writing specifically what it was that you won on, and then writing like the wins that you're going to have the next day. Your brain's already working. Well, you're sleeping, but your brain's already working to make that stuff happen.
Let's figure out how it's going to solve that problem and get that win for you.
Yeah. And then that book mentioned one called The Third Door. And so I looked into that. And so I picked that book up, and that book is amazing too.
One of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite books.
Yeah. It's like, and I know we've discussed this, and I've shared this with so many people like over the years. There's always a way. There's almost always a way.
Kind of break the concept down so people understand what the third door means.
Yeah, so it's like, like in the book, it talks about like, most people think there's 1 or 2 ways into a nightclub. Like 99% go through the front door, 1% go through the VIP. But then if you can't get in there, there's always like a kitchen door or a window or somewhere you can get in. And that was kind of, I had read that about the book before I bought it. I was like, I'm buying this book. And I couldn't put that thing down, man. I read it like focused on it, and it was a few days, and it's like I just couldn't put it down. I stayed up late a couple nights reading it. It was that good. But it was like, it kind of goes, I never really had a name for it, but it's like other than persistence or never quitting. But I've seen this, and it's like with like real estate transactions, there's been some that, I think most agents can't even, if it took 2 weeks to negotiate an offer, they're not going to get it done. On some higher end stuff and commercial stuff, I've seen even longer periods of time than that. It's like, okay, you think that's dead, but then sleep on that and see what you think the next day. or there's always, you just got to keep your wheels turning. You know, I've had things closed that, man, it's like an inspection report comes in, it's like a disaster. It's like, all right, well, let's work through that. You never know. Like the buyer might go, man, I went out. Like, this is not for me. Well, let's sleep on that. Let's talk tomorrow. And then, you know, then it's like, okay, let's throw it all out there. Let's send them the entire list. Like, maybe they're open to doing, fixing some things. And then, you know, and then it's like, we've worked through stuff like that and gotten to closing to where everybody's happy and still are. But there's a lot of times where, like, you know, people just quit on things and they quit too soon and they don't take the time to go, there is a way. There's almost always a way. I've had a couple recently that, you know, we worked through so many issues. And one of them was a pretty big one, but didn't go through. But through that process of working through all those, like, I realized, like, this is not the right thing for my client either. And we both realized at the same time. It's like, all right, and we're good. Then you walk away, but you know that you did, that you took that approach, that third door approach. And if you work through it and then it doesn't work after that, it's like, all right, you can sleep at night.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, and Horowitz and Hard Thing About Hard Things. And for all of you guys listening in this, if you're kind of struggling, kind of lost in your business, and you feel it like, man, I just don't know if there's an end in sight, get Ben Horowitz' Hard Thing About Hard Things. It was the most impactful book given the time where we were at and kind of a transition with our business. And I remember I was commuting back and forth every other weekend with the kiddos. So it was 6-hour round trip on Friday, 6-hour round trip on Sunday. And so I listened to a lot of books during that time frame. And I remember one Sunday, and I had typically I want to dive in pretty deep before I kind of recommend it to anybody. And I got a good 3/4 of the way through, and I called Kinder and I said, I got one for you. And he dove into it. It's just what he needed, where we were in the business at the time. And one of the key takeaways that Horowitz talks about is that you always have a move. The only time that you don't have a move is when you give up. That's it. So when people say, man, I don't have a move, what I hear is that, oh, you're giving up. Because if you weren't giving up, then you would figure out a way. And it's just like you said, maybe one of the ways is that we put it down for now until we find another solution or another route to go for them. And, you know, then it comes back to the other concept that you know, Ryan Holiday talks about, is that just because you start a book doesn't mean you finish it. And I think that's a hard thing with people in negotiation, is that just because you start a negotiation doesn't mean that you have to win or you have to get it to the end. You have to do what's best, you know, for the person that you're negotiating for. It ain't about just getting that win to get the win. It's about, hey, is this the right thing for them of what they're wanting to accomplish? Because if you get them into a situation just because you want to get a win, that's not going to build goodwill, and they're going to have that resentment. And then what happens is they become a detractor, and everywhere they go is they're like, don't call that dude. He's going to lead you down a bad path. And because he's only concerned about him. And, you know, I believe that you, and this goes back to the king eats first, right? I saw, you know, I love Brad Lee, and he had a little comment, a little post yesterday, is that he said, if you only focus on others, you will always be average. He said, if you only focus on others, you will only be average. And that goes back to why the king eats first. That's why you have to become the best version of yourself. That's why you have to always do what's best, yes, for your client, but it's also because that's what's best for you, and you're protecting that, who you are at your core. And like you said, being able to sleep well at night. And so it's just really good. One of the things I want to transition to you before we wrap up, and you know, we had a great conversation at Kitchen Table with Bo Slay. And we got into a little bit of understanding, you know, the different levels of leadership. And then you and I talked about this yesterday. And, you know, it's the selfish leader, right? Mm-hmm. It's only about me. Then you got the barter leadership, which is about, hey, I'll do this only if you do this for me. So there's a trade. There's the selfless leader, and then there's the servant leadership. Now, we at different times we're up and down that scale. However, where do we live? And it was just a great example of just listening to Bo's story. Bo lives in that servant leadership, most of the time. And that kind of, you had an epiphany, you had an aha on the flight back home out of OKC. And it comes back down to something that you're super passionate about. And I want to spend the rest of the time in this conversation kind of talking about that and talking about Valeries House.
Okay. Yeah. So you want to like roll into like what my epiphany was or
yeah, a little bit about that, and then definitely unpack what Valeries House is, what it means to you, and then how people could either kind of model after that, or if want to connect with you to kind of maybe see how they can support it.
Cool. Yeah. So well, I mean, so Valeries House, what it is that it started down in in Southwest Florida in Fort Myers, and it's an organization that helps families in need that lost a loved one. And I had actually heard about it from an agent here locally that I'm friends with. I heard about it a couple of years ago, and I didn't really put much thought to it. And then a good friend of mine owns a big insurance company here. He was putting together a big fishing tournament to raise money for Valeries House, and so he came to me like in May or June last year and said, "Hey." He's done other big fishing tournaments before for other organizations, but he set up a foundation, and he goes, I'm breaking off of what I was doing. I'm going to do this one. And it's going to be in September, and it's going to support Valeries House. I was like, I'm in. I was like, if you're doing it, I'm in. And so I sponsored it and really was just expecting to go have a good time at a captain's dinner and awards dinner and fish one of the days and, drink too much and maybe win some raffles and whatever. That was what I was focused on. And then went to this tournament, and man, I just started talking to a lot of people there that were from Valeries House and really learned about what they do. And man, there's such a need for this, like I've often thought about this, like when I go on a business trip or, somewhere without my kids, like for an extended period of time, I'm like, I got to get home to them. If my wife does, like, pray that she gets home to us, because like, not that either one of us, I'm sure, would survive if something happened. But it's like I think about my kids, man. Like I can't imagine my kids like not having their mom or a dad. That would, like, to me, that's like a crushing thing. And so learning about that at this tournament, I was like just talking to people and really had some great conversations and really learned about what they're doing. And so it's this house. And people don't live there, but it's an old house, and they're working to raise money to build a newer, bigger house because the need is so big. And families go there for group nights. It might be, a family that lost a dad or lost a mom, and the whole family goes. And the kids go to support groups, like they play outside, play some sports and stuff like that. And so then they go into a group and they go in but for age group, like the moms might go in with moms that lost a husband so they can get support there. Dads that lost a wife or mother of kids or whatever, they can have support there. But for me, it was like about the kids, and it's like, wow, that's amazing. Then I also learned that I know that in this country especially, like there are so many boys that need an example from a dad or just a man in their lives, and it's so lacking. And I was like, I've got kids. I've got 3 kids. I've got 2 boys and a girl. And it's like, I know that I could probably help in that capacity. So I talked to people there, and I was like, I actually met Angela, who started it. Her mom passed away in a car accident when she was young, and her mom's name was Valerie. So that's how it started. And so they have group nights like Monday through Friday every week. And so I contacted her. I talked to her there at the event, and then I followed up with her after. And I started I said, how can I help? And she goes, really, if I'd really love for you to come see kind of how group nights are. You don't have to, sit for the group section, but at least come, meet the kids. I was like, sure. I was like, when's the next one? And it was like the next Monday. So I was like, all right, I'll go. So I went there. I brought some dessert. I brought cookies and brownies and stuff. And I just played basketball and football outside with the kids for about an hour before they went into their groups. And when they went to their groups, I went home. And, but just, and then I was like, how often can I do that? She goes, well, that group is every other Monday. So I was like, all right, I want my wife to see this too. And actually, you know what? She was with me that first time. and so we were a little bit nervous going in there, like, what is this going to be about? Like, we didn't know. We were like, oh, is this going to be like a sad thing? I was having second thoughts, like, should we do this? And when we got there, it was like, so my wife went in, she was helping serve dinner and stuff. And, you know, what we saw was, man, kids are so resilient, and it's not a place of, sure, there's sadness, but it's a place of healing, and it's a place where people can go and get something that they need. And these kids especially. And then, you know, we were driving, we went out to dinner after, and we were talking about it. And then, I don't know, a month or so into that, I was like, I would like to mentor somebody. You know, I have the time. I know that sure, 3 kids, whatever, but we can all do more. And so I started mentoring a boy there, and you know, he's a little bit younger than my son, and you know, we go fishing, we go to hockey games, and you know, I've had him on my boat. He caught like this huge fish last time, and just seeing, man, just seeing his reactions, like, wow, he needed that more than I realized. And so that's a big thing. So anyway, it's just an amazing group, and they're growing like crazy. You know, they've only been around for 2016, and so now we're raising money through this tournament. We're doing it again this September, and just raising money to help them build this new house. It's about, I think it just started. They just had a groundbreaking, but it's not just for that house. It's like they're needing other markets. They're branching into other areas of Florida. There's other areas of the state and of the country that need this, and so. It's just that I've seen firsthand like what it can do, and I never really put it out there because I don't, you know, for me it's not about me. It's about like, I look at it like servant leadership isn't never about you. It's about the person that you're helping. It's about you know, it might be about an organization like that. It might be about your client. It's not about me getting a contract, a transaction under my belt. It's about them. Like it has to be about them, and it should never be about you. And so that's why I think I've never really put this out there, because like I don't want it to look like I'm trying to make it about me. But then in talking to Bo, man, what an amazing dude. I'm gonna drive over. I'm gonna get a hold of him, and I'll drive over to his side of the state and get to know him better, because he's just he's just an amazing dude. Like the stuff he's overcome, and just never lost his faith. And what he's doing now in people's lives, and not just the restaurant that he runs, it's in his community. And then, when T talked about, kind of towards the tail end of that, when you and Bo were up there, he brought up that, like, man, like we need to be, this was like the big epiphany I had on the plane. It's like when T said, like, because Bo went through all this stuff, some of the stuff he does in the community. And he's like, T's like, do you guys realize like how much more we could all be doing? Like, get involved in your community. And so I'm not even as involved as I want to be. I'm going to work on growing that, getting involved more. But I feel like I've seen firsthand what Valeries House does in the community. I know the need that's there. Yeah. And so really by not putting it out there, I'm doing them an injustice.
That's right.
And so now I realize, like, I'm not serving them by keeping it in. Like, I need to put that out there, and it will serve them. Whatever comes after that, whatever. But I think just that made me okay with, like, okay, I'm gonna put it out there, because it isn't about me. It's about them and what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so just like the signs that I've had that pointed me, and like just, I mean, family members are like, how are you gonna, like, it's not gonna take away from your kids? No, it's gonna take away a little bit of time, but it's not gonna take away from them.
No, because you can incorporate them a part of it as well, right? Because
it's
the
like
impact that it's gonna have on them.
Yeah, it's like my wife and I started doing date night once a week around. It was actually when we started working together. It was like in September. It's like I came back from that Dallas trip last year, and I was like, all right, I know I needed a coach. I saw you talk. I was like, I need to connect with you. We started doing date nights once a week and everything. And it's just, man, things have just gone so good since then. And, but then, getting back to like that, like my kids don't really like having a babysitter come over and having us leave. But whenever we're going to Valerie's house, they don't give us any grief at all. They don't give us, like, it's like, okay, they know we're going to do something good. The first time we came back, actually, first or second time we came back from there, our two oldest had found a jar, and they started collecting like change. And they're like, we're gonna collect change, and when it's full, we want to give it to Valerie's house. I was like, whoa, like I didn't expect that. So just that impact. And so it's not taken away from them. It's just they're getting behind it too. My oldest son went fishing with us when I took the kid I'm mentoring, and like he was so excited to go with us. And again, it's been a blessing for us, and I never expected it. I just wanted to go to help. So
yeah, I love it, man. So powerful. I appreciate you sharing that. And for people that may want to know more or get connected with you, what's the best way?
We're doing this fishing tournament to raise money for them, and people can hit me on social media. You can hit me on my cell phone if they want. Find me there. So, cool. Social media, message me on Facebook, something like that.
Message me. I'll get you guys connected with Dave as well.
So and there's other things we're going to be doing, and we've got like fundraising sites and stuff like that too. But
love it.
Or if you even want to if you're in this, this market and you want to get involved and volunteer, man, there's no, we'll take everybody.
Yeah, I love it. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for jumping in, and fun conversation as always. And keep rocking. We'll catch you soon.
Thank you.
Awesome. See you.
See you.